Boom. Hey there. You made it. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I'm Michael Zinn. I've made it too. We're here together to co-create this moment. This moment is brought to you by my intention. A while ago, I was doing a broadcast with Jesse Blaze, and we created it as a place to have these conversations, as a place to be. Specifically on Thursday night. What's up, Jelly B, who is also here? Nice to see you always. And it became my happy place. It became Jilly's happy place. It became a couple of people's happy place, and I think it became a place that anybody can be happy, really, if you just kind of come with your intention. And what's up, Jay? Jay Battlestrong is here in the house. I can't wait to talk to him. October 20th. He's going to be on the show. I'm fucking so excited. Excuse my language. But he is an amazing human being. The content here on this show is kind of changing a little bit. I know my guest today is going to be a little bit late, so I have a minute to talk about it. I have a guest on. What's up? I have a guest coming on who it's a bit controversial, and I'm kind of, my gut is telling me to go with it. So you guys tell me what you think. My gut is telling me to go with it. What's up, Lily? And that is his name is Flat Earth Dave. Of course, it's pretty obvious what that's about. And he is a flat Earth. I don't want to say enthusiast or theorist, or I don't know what you would call it. And I just saw him on a friend's show, and I kind of watched some of his videos, and I spoke to him, and I told him, I said, listen, I can't wrap my head around flat Earth, but I can wrap my head around the idea that the reality that we're living in is not exactly what it might seem, and that part of that might be based on stuff we've been told and taught. So I feel like when I'm watching people argue with him and him argue back and forth about the flat Earth, I do feel a common ground. I feel like there is, the spiritual community talks about this shift in humanity that's happening right now, that people are awakening and realizing that things are not what they seem. So I think that's really indicative of what my common ground with Flat Earth Dave is, and that's what I want to talk to him about. I got the opportunity on my friend's show to say, hey Dave, what are your spiritual beliefs? Do you have any spiritual beliefs? And he did say, he stopped for a minute, and he said he believes that we have a soul. He said he believes that the soul is our eternal being that lives on beyond this place, that this place is just kind of a school. So there's some more common ground. I kind of feel like, this person who gets lambasted everywhere he goes and everybody is fighting with him, and he's kind of fighting back. He's got this idea that's a little hard for people to grasp, and he believes in it. And again, so that's where I was like, I have compassion for him, and I feel like I really want to talk to him. I don't want to talk about flat Earth at all. I want to talk about who he is, and why he feels so important about his mission, maybe. So maybe a little bit, like, I do want to give him his space to be who he is, but I want to ask him what he thinks consciousness is. I want to ask him, what was the moment that he realized that the Earth was flat, and maybe I don't even want to put it that way, because I don't want to get him going off in that flat Earth room. But what do you guys think? I mean, do you guys think I should have him on? I shouldn't have him on? I'm not even asking you if you believe that the Earth is flat. You can tell me if that's something you want to talk about. But like, again, I feel like the live stream of consciousness is a good place to have a conversation with him. So I was also saying that the content is changing a bit, and J.E. Battlestrong is totally another kind of different person that I would have on. I totally breached the topic, or I breached any sort of misconceptions about spirituality and religion by having Michael Wellhouse on. Michael Wellhouse is a theologist who is so well versed in the Bible, studies the Bible like you would not believe. And I love this man. He is so true to himself and to his beliefs and to love. To Jesus, he knows Jesus is love, so I think he separates himself a little bit away from the way that some religion has become, and I think his view on religion is very righteous, and I think that's why I love him, and that's why we relate, because we are both on this planet to love our fellow human, make this world a better place, lift each other up, be there for each other, and that is why I'm having J.E. Battlestrong on the show, because he is another example of an amazing, amazing, amazing human being. I have watched this gentleman. You'll see him on the show. I don't want to say too much about it, but I have watched him grow into this amazing. He was, I think when I first saw him, he was a power. He was a vibration that I was like drawn to watch, but he's grown into this even more high vibrational light, and you'll meet him soon, man. I appreciate you much, brother. He always tells me how much he appreciates me, but I never tell him how much I appreciate him. I appreciate you like you would not believe. No, I do tell you that, but that's love. That's unconditional love. We've never met each other in person, and there is definitely a love and a respect there. He's left me messages that when he comes to New York, he wants to get together and go see a comedy show. I don't know if he knows that I'm friends with Jackie Mortling, so I could get us into a good comedy show right away. But it's all good, and now he's sending the love back. Look at this. Look at these mirrors just bouncing back and forth. He's telling me he appreciates me for appreciating him, which, what can I do but appreciate, right? This is so yeah, man, this is a love fest, right? It's so weird, you never thought you'd like be into that stuff, but it's just so compelling and it feels so good. That's the biggest realization I've had about energy. We talk here about energy and how energy is everything all the time. The biggest realization you can have is to just gauge your own energy in the situations, and when it doesn't feel good, like, what's going on? Why does this not feel good? And you'll notice what's going on. And when it feels good, you'll notice what's going on. And that's what you got to trust. That's what you got to know. And if you keep finding yourself in situations where the energy is no good, you got to look at that and you got to figure out, okay, what's going on here? And you will figure it out, and you will be able to control your energy and look at your fellow man so unjudgmental, and compassionate. So that's it. But I see J.E.'s blowing up my chat here. He's just giving as much love. Thank you, sir, for being here and giving me love while I'm trying to chat away until my guest gets here. So I'll talk a little bit about my guest before he gets here, so you guys know who he is. His name is Jacob Cooper. I'm going to ask him whether he prefers Jake or Jacob, because I see on Facebook he uses Jake, but as an author, he uses Jacob Cooper. He's written a book. He's actually written a second book now. And he is what the name of the book is, Life After Breath. He's going to talk about it, and it's all about his near-death experience. So he had a near-death experience, and it changed his life, and that's why he's a perfect guest for the live stream of consciousness, because he's here to talk about what life is like now. He came through the experience with like some mediumship abilities, and really, I think the biggest thing that you come through a near-death experience is understanding the other side, or I don't even want to say the other side. I want to say another side, like another side to what your soul can experience. That's what death is. It's another side to what your soul can experience. And I think knowing that you're still the soul is comforting to most people. So they come back with this kind of new perspective about what life is, and they can see life in a new way. And that's exactly what Jacob is. So Jacob came to me through some friends. Like you guys know, I have some mediums who are friends with me and all sorts of different people. And he came to me looking for some help for some graphics for his book. He was putting his first book out, Life After Breath. And I'll bring that up and we'll talk all about that. And I helped him out with some graphics, and we became friends. And since then, I've seen him do his medium thing. He had a great show with Christopher Allen, who you guys know, and from this show, if you've seen that one. What's up, Tim? Good to see you. Tim from Brazil is here. Nice to see you, Tim. Are you in Brazil right now, or are you back in the United States? Tim is an avid listener of the show. We've seen Tim have a baby on the show and get married, and all of the wonderful things about life have happened to Tim as he's been a listener of the show. So we've been able to experience that stuff with him. That's pretty cool. I just spoke it out loud and realized it at the same time how cool that was. Really cool, Tim. Good to see you here. And Julie is saying hello to Tim as well. So here we are, our loyal viewers. Thank you. If you guys are catching this on the replay, again, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. That's how this show grows. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel and you make comments, then it seems to YouTube, oh, people are interested in this, and it starts to grow, and they put it in front of other people who might be interested in it. And so that would really help. If you guys can share this show around. I've been really coming into, he's in Brazil. Awesome. So I've been really coming into the power of this show. And it's funny because Jay, if you're still there, Jay tells me how my show has inspired him and the graphics and the things that I do. And he started doing podcasts, and his podcast inspires me because he has these really motivated, inspirational people on. And that's really what Jay's all about. He's all about, I keep saying Jay, his name is Josh, but we'll when we talk to him, we'll ask him what he prefers. And that's what he's all about. So it's all about sharing stories. That's what he's doing too. He's sharing people's stories. He's helping families. That's what he does. I keep trying to talk. I should take a breath and let you guys talk for a minute until Jake gets here. But yeah, I can't wait to have his show. Let me see what else I got on the calendar. I got oh yeah. So let's see. Here's my calendar. Let me share that. Oh, it changed to present, share screen, Chrome tab, October calendar. So I'm going to share that. And this is the people who I've got coming up. Actually, only the next two. But after Jacob, tonight we have Clarity next week. Clarity is a good friend of mine who is the true definition of a poet. He's like a spoken word artist. So he's like one of those guys who stands up on a stage and just spits wisdom, but in time, in rhyme. And it's all a vibe, and it's amazing. And he's so smart. And I've seen him also go from this young guy taking a trip to Hawaii. He bought a ticket one way to Hawaii just to go find himself, and he's been kind of wandering the earth ever since, traveling around, seeing beautiful places, creating amazing get-togethers in the form of something called the Muse, which is like this open mic, poets, and everybody gets together. I see Jacob has arrived, so let me bring myself back into focus and get this show on the road. So again, tonight's guest, Jacob Cooper. I'm going to welcome him and bring him into the show right now. What is happening?
Hey, Michael, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I was going to ask you first. I'm hearing an echo. I was going to ask you if you prefer Jacob or Jake.
Jacob, yeah, are you able to hear me okay? Because I could get my...
I hear you fine. I just hear myself kind of echoing back.
Oh,
I don't know if it's... I don't usually hear that, so I'm sure what it is, but no big deal. I think I can deal with it. Maybe I can edit your seconds. Hold on. Echo cancellation. Can you hear me now?
could hear you loud and clear.
All right, and I turned off that echo. Awesome. I controlled it from here. I feel like a wizard. Woo. Welcome to the show, man. I'm excited to see you again.
Oh man, an honor. I feel like we just saw you just yesterday at the
It was a
event.
couple of weeks ago. Yeah, it was a couple
Yeah.
weeks ago. You had a great show with two wonderful, wonderful mediums, and just an amazing night of love and kind of higher understanding and just touching the other realms, which is always fun for me. I love that stuff. But I want to just initiate you to the live stream of consciousness before we get going with all about you, and that is just by asking you a couple of questions, which are kind of standard fare here. Uh, and the first one is to just get us all on the same page, just to know what your idea of consciousness is. What is consciousness?
Yeah, that's a good question, Michael. Something that I don't want to define because I feel each and every day could be defined in a different way. But to me, it's, one's prism of reality that's evolving every moment and every day. So there's no stagnant definition other than one's worldview. Um, and to me, hopefully the quest is to wake up better than when you went to bed that night and to look at the world in a different way. And that's an infinite quest and process that we have, in this opportunity here in the physical, as well as when we cross over, to the spirit realm.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I love that answer. We get all sorts of answers from the Eckhart Tolle kind of the I behind the I am to all these different answers, but again they're all explaining the same concept. So that's what's so cool, because you could hear all these different words, but you're like, oh wait, that's the kind of the same thing that this guy said. So that's why I love that question.
I call it the sacred eternal observer. We have a version of ourselves with the personality, the ego, but then with the deeper parts of the ocean. So it's when we understand that our lives aren't the surface, but we have depths beyond the surface, or what we present to the world or what we identify as, that, helps. But the sacred eternal observer, that's the way I see us all.
Right. Totally. A couple of people are saying hello to you. We got Tim saying hola, Jacob from Brazil. Lily saying hello. We got Jill saying hello. So everybody's welcoming you. And again, I think that is, that's totally the right answer. That's great. I appreciate it. It's usually people who haven't seen the show get taken by surprise, like, oh my God, that's such a deep question. But you can usually, you can usually succinctly just put it into some words. What's up, Lori? Nice to see you. Lori's an old friend of mine from college. I see her here every once in a while. Good to see you. Awesome. So you passed the first test, but the next question is really, and I think that's why you're here, and that's kind of where your book came about. So it might just go right into the space that I'm creating for you here, and that is, obviously the live stream of consciousness is about kind of spirituality and consciousness, and I always ask my guests if there was a specific moment in time that suddenly they realize that everything they thought, everything that they've been taught, kind of they realize, wait, there's more to it than what I thought there was, and that's kind of a moment of awakening. Is there a specific moment you can talk about, or is it something you've had your whole life?
Yeah, I think when I was doing the dishes today, that was profound to me too. Yeah.
So every moment you have that realization.
Yeah. But my
Yeah.
near-death experience I had when I was a young infant, which I have a book on called Life After Breath, right over here. But my near-death experience that I had as an infant was a total shakeup of my worldview. I don't necessarily think that it added to what was already there. It just reminded me of what I forgot, what we all could be guilty of forgetting in this human experience. In that we are infinite, eternal, spiritual beings having this human experience. And my near-death experience, along with thousands of other near-death experience encounters, all come up to that same similar end of the path of the mountain.
Mhm, mhm. So
or endless
so
path of the mountain, endless point of the mountain. Yeah.
so I'm curious. You're telling me you kind of had a realization when you were an infant, right? Of that? Is that what you just said? Not a realization, but kind of a remembrance.
A profound recollection. Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess okay. So that kind of makes sense. A profound recollection. That's a good way to describe it. Because I'm wondering, like, as an infant, how you would kind of even understand that that's what you were experiencing. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of a lot of concept
Hmm.
as an infant, but wow, that's so deep. Sometimes we just like things come out and we're just like channeling these thoughts, and I start thinking ahead of myself. But so okay, I kind of, I guess I expected you to tell me that it was your experience that really kind of changed your life, the experience that led you to write your book, uh, Life After Breath. And so why don't you talk about that experience? What was the experience that led to that?
Yeah, I suffocated as a result of whooping cough, otherwise known as pertussis. I went to a playground, as a young kid, actually this time of year, right before the Day of Atonement or Yom Kippur, the Jewish holiday,
Hmm.
day in which your soul is getting ready itself to meet the Creator.
Hmm.
Literally, did I know that my meeting with the Creator was not in a synagogue, but a direct meeting,
Wow.
with the Creator. That's much different than the outer God or the God in religion. It's the God that speaks to us all, that we know within each and every one of us,
Hmm.
subjectively basis. But I suffocated, at a playground, as a young child, and once I lost all part of my capacity to breathe, I was in this state where I could just kind of hold on to the suffering, or I could allow myself to let go to this eternal, infinite awareness. And once
Hmm.
I let go to the eternal breath that we all are created from, and letting go of my own non existing human breath and
Hmm.
suffering,
Hmm.
was
Hmm.
when I was able to have this profound awakening. And so, this awakening encompassed seeing my own spirit guides, things that I necessarily didn't interpret or have even a word for. Near death experience, that wasn't even a word for me at the
Sure.
time. It was this profound experience, but recollections of past lives, awareness of, soul's purpose, and just a reminder of this kind of veil that was lifted of all these things that were around me the whole time, but I forgot. And kind of like the Wizard of Oz, you had the power all along, my dear. And
Right.
you
Right.
know, that movie has a lot of metaphysical symbology there too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was thinking the same thing. Lori's asking, how old were you? When did you experience that?
I was 3 years old, September of 1993, to give my age away. But it comes back to our first, yeah, comes back to our first conversation with what is consciousness. And so I could identify with the ego. I could identify myself with the personality of 3 years old or 32-year-old. What happens when I turn 33, 34? What happens when my body goes? What am I? So all these temporary labels, are temporary. Beyond these experiences and these roles that we play is an eternal sacred observer, which you could call the soul or whatever you want to call it. And so my soul was beyond the temporary personality that I was experiencing as 3-year-old Jake. And that's what I experienced in my NDE. That was so much more than just an infant.
Right, 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 right. Okay, so that leads me to this kind of question. I mean, you were 3 years old and you experienced these past lives and you had full recollections of these things. And again, like I said, I think at 3 years old, at least as a human at 3 years old, for you to tell a 3 year old you were a Viking or you were this or you were that, I don't think you would understand that as a human, but as a soul
Right.
you understood it. And I guess this is what I always say about consciousness, like there's not so much of a definition, it's more of a feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's so I feel like, so is that what it was? The experience of remembering these past lives was just this feeling of knowing and having experienced that, or like, did you all of a sudden after that experience, were you talking about those things as if you understood those concepts?
No, there's inner experience and there's the outer portrayal of it and the outer life that we have with it. So for myself, I was very congruent with a lot of near-death experiencers in a sense that I kept this very much within for almost 2 decades. And my father told me, and I never knew this, we recently had a conversation, and he's also a therapist too, and he said, after you had your near-death experience, you shortly told me that something very big happened, but I can't talk about it and you won't understand it, but one day will make sense. One
Mm.
day you will. And I was shocked because I remember saying that. I don't remember much about my childhood. I'm much like any other
Wow.
person, but the things that I do remember come from depth, come from higher places, come from a place beyond the filter of our life or our brains.
Right,
So
right, right.
for me, what really changed me was reading a book called Embraced by the Light by Betty Eadie, who was on the Oprah Winfrey Show. She was a near death experiencer. And the book was gifted to me by a family friend. I just read it. I'm like, wow, this person also had this. And there's a term for this, which we credit Dr. Raymond
Oh,
Moody in 1975's Life After Life for making a term of this phenomenon of the near death
mhm.
experience. So, that gave me universality behind the experience and to be able to take ownership of this as a thing.
And how old were you when you got that book?
I was probably in my early 20s when I got this book, like my early
Wow.
college years. So,
So that's when it kind of came forward, and it wasn't so much of like something you kept private. You were like, I think I have to talk about this now because you felt like it was a thing.
yeah, I was kind of a little bit, if you're familiar with watching the movie The Hereafter with Matt Damon, and for
Hmm.
those of you who haven't seen it, do
Hmm.
watch it. It's,
Hmm.
Matt is basically a negligent medium who runs away from his gifts. He doesn't want it. He just wants to be a regular guy, but he can't.
Mm,
And so for me, it's kind of like I tried to just push this beach ball down, but
sure.
eventually the thing, when it was ready, just popped up. And
Right.
I think that's something universal within all of us. We're taught that it's cool to fit in order to find ourselves, we must lose our true self to kind of
Right.
fit into this thing. And then we recognize the coolest thing we could be is who we are and weird as anything. We get to
Wow.
a more grounded place in our life.
Yeah. So
That's
so
it.
you said something interesting to me, and I just kind of want to go back to this, and then I want to address some questions we're getting. Um, and that is, your father told you this story that when you were 3 years old, you told him, I want to talk about it, but you wouldn't understand. Those are the
That's right.
words that you told your father. And he told you
That,
that back. That must have
yeah,
been an incredible experience for your father to hear his 3-year-old son telling him that. I mean, that must have been like chilling. He must have got chills at that moment.
yeah. And as a therapist, you want to try to find all answers. And so, but also good therapists are kind of like good Buddhists. They sit back, they observe, they don't always judge, and they take with, what is presented. They don't add to it. They meet you where your feet are at. That's a
Mhm,
good, lesson in life.
mhm,
Sometimes we're over here, person's over here,
right.
good tenant is meeting. So he just kind of took with, and he's like, oh, he didn't add to it. He just, what I'm trying to say is the best thing that we could do sometimes is not say anything, but just listen.
Right, 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 right. And your
Yeah,
dad knew that. And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wow, that's great. That's great. I want to talk more about the book. I want to give you the stage pretty much and to talk about your story, but I want to just bring up where is my button here? Uh
Let's
your
get the chat
your
going. Yeah.
your website, and I also want to bring it up, literally bring it up so people can see it. And you and I are actually working on this. We're about to update it, but I do want to show how it is so that when it's done, we can uh we can show people what we've done
Yeah.
to it. And I think it looks great. I don't think you really need to do much to it. I think you want to just update the look. I guess I understand you feel like it's a little sterile maybe, but I think
Yeah.
it's beautiful. But this is Jacob's website, and this is your first book and the new book that's coming out. So let me give you the stage. Is there any kind of anything you want to say about the first book before we start talking about the second book?
Yeah. Life After Breath was a book that I wrote for many reasons, but I wrote it because a lot of people could not relate to my near-death experience. For years I was doing workshops, and when I would talk about it, people would feel, that what I had was something that was put on a pedestal that wasn't relatable. And so, Life After Breath, I got very vulnerable in a sense that I wanted people to see that, no one's immunized from suffering, from pain, but with a higher awareness, a higher compass, through the darkness, we could find that light. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
think the book, from what I get, is very relatable, very inspiring, and it leaves people, looking at the nature of reality, and their lives in a different way. So, yes, the near death experience is included, but I think the bigger question is like the position that it was in at 3 years old. You had this, and the bigger story is kind of like, geez, how did you live with that?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I could write a book like Eben Alexander or Nita Marjani, who were in the middle of their life, who could just talk about the near death experience. Mine happened at such a young age, and it made things so rewarding yet so complex that I felt this was a story in itself. This was a book in itself. And so I included, kind of like Harry Potter, with like a theme.
Yeah.
You kind of go away from the theme, but then you come back to it directly, but it's always there. So Life
Right.
After Breath is kind of like that, the near death experience. Like everything revolves around that sun, but sometimes you have Pluto, sometimes you got Mercury, different planets in different positions of the book. I think there's
Right.
12 chapters too, but that's another story with but the wisdom of Jacob's ladder is different in a sense. Life After Breath is more of my karma or my story,
Right.
and the wisdom of Jacob's ladder is more of my dharma, my purpose, my meaning. And there's a quote like,
Makes a lot of sense.
I just posted it by Fred Rogers. He said the meaning, and we see all these quotes, and who knows if he actually said it or if he
Right.
came.
Right. Right.
But I'll give him credit. I have
It
a
was a
world
good
of
one, right?
respect for him. But he said the meaning of life is to find your gift, and the purpose of it is to give it away. It doesn't
Oh,
mean
that's a
we
great
should have
quote.
recessions, but to be of service. We
What
find
a
ourselves
great
to be of
quote.
service.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of like the meaning of my life has been to give meaning to this story and for people to have something tangible that they could use in their life to move the needle with. You know?
Mhm. Yeah.
So these are just the lessons of crossing over, and other subsequent experiences that people can integrate. You know?
Awesome, awesome, and there's so much to be said for that. I think that that's to me that's what's happening. I was talking before you came on about the shift in awareness and people kind of waking up and what's going on with some of that. And I think that's the thing. It's like once we realize that if we can live in service of each other, that we will be such a it will be such an amazing energy and will be such an amazing race. It would just be it would just be perfect. You know what I mean? But I do want to address some people because they're starting to get restless in the chat. I think they're starting to talk to each other here. I think we answered how did that change your life? That was when we were first talking about it. But Jill would like to know if you could describe any of the past lives that you remembered now that you're an older gentleman and more articulate than a 3-year-old.
Yeah, I mean, I know YouTube is a little bit sensitive with this subject matter, so hopefully they won't censor.
Oh, are they? Oh, well, are we talking about? Am I going to get my first censorship with you, Jake? If that's
That-
true.
this isn't anything political or anything, medicine revolved, or
Hold on. Let me take a second. The opinions expressed in this program
yeah.
are
It's funny.
not
I was
necessarily.
doing an interview and then a near death experience. We're like, we got to cut that out because YouTube is on us. But again, this is a channel with like hundreds of thousands of views. So
Right.
I guess they more are on the like, much like the IRS is on the. But we're getting there, Michael. I mean, I saw you had this thing is really elevating.
This is really elevating, and actually, I want to apologize. You did send me the transcript of your new book, I think, and I haven't. I'm not really a big reader, but I think I've turned into a reader because Jill, one of my listeners, turned me on to Lori Ladd's Divine Design, and we had her on the show, and yeah, it just was. I've just been getting so many signs from the universe that this is right here. This is my thing, and another realization we had about consciousness when we talked to Lori was how when you are a creator and you create something and it takes a physical form, that physical form has a consciousness to it. And especially as an author, when you create a book, so for your book example, it's the same thing. You've created this consciousness that when someone holds that book and reads that book, they're attached to that energy that you put into that story, that you put into the book, and again, the actual vibrational energy is there. So that's what this show is for me. It's just this thing I'm putting out into the universe, and it's got this energy. And I believe that, maybe we got 20 people watching us now, but a lot of people will find it and relate to it and get something out of it. So,
What's the saying? Real recognizes real, and you are authentic, my brother. You're putting out
thank
great
you.
content, come from a place of service, and you can't fake that. And at this age, we're all intuitive. We pick up on stuff, and knowing who you are, it just comes from a place of giving back what you were given, and a place of
Totally.
service that really, and nothing spreads faster than light, you know.
Totally. Thank you, my brother. That's a true, that's like my first testimonial right there.
I got to write. You can put that on your website. But I know to answer Jill's question, I had a couple past lives which I chronicle in Life After Breath, but one of them that I was most close to was a life in which, I completed suicide. I took my own body, but I could never believe it could take your life. And
Wow.
so it's very interesting that that came up in my near-death experience, that I saw that lifetime
Totally.
because of the symmetry of having this near-death experience, going through endless suffering, not seeing past it, and then kind of surrendering and seeing something much greater. I was able to understand that what's inside of me is infinitely greater than the challenges in front of me, and challenges come and go, but who we are is eternal. And remembering who you are will allow us to really be more resilient in the face of challenges and to move the needle. And so for me, I recognize that we're all interconnected, and what I faced in that lifetime wasn't out of punishment to have this near death experience or this, but an opportunity
Mhm.
to showcase that moment and to plug in place, have an opportunity in this lifetime and
Yep.
to just move the chessboard in a different way when the pieces, come at you the same way. So I think that's what it's all about is as we evolve, we're able to make, more, we're able to take the higher road in life and make better decisions, from seeing those same plays and knowing, what to do and maybe what is better not to do, and there's no mistakes, but it's all
Right,
an
right,
experience.
right, right. No, but you learn and you grow and you figure out how to respond, how one response to something will have a better outcome than another response to something. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's pretty much that simple. So I have a question for you about, again, having this kind of experience as an infant and again at 3 years old. Um, do you remember any points in your life where there was like specific guidance saying, hey, remember that experience, this was showing you to take this path right here versus this path, or anything like that?
Yes. Yeah. It,
Well,
it I mean, to me, every day I use my near death experience, in a sense that when I had nothing, I was shown everything. And for
mhm,
me, my whole life is dedicated to giving back the life that I didn't experience in those moments in life that I was given back.
mhm,
And so all that I do in service is really about giving, what I was given, which was shown eternal life, for moments of suffering, that life is a gift. And, you know, I just recognize that this isn't something random. We're not just here to just pay the bills and play this game. And, all that stuff is nice, but there's a much greater intelligence and meaning all
mhm.
around us, governing and um, GPSing this life, so to speak. So
Right,
there's a
right,
lot
right.
going on behind the scenes that we don't see with the physical eye, is what I'll say.
Right, totally, totally, and that's actually some of the thoughts that are running through my head. I remember there was like an Incubus song when I was growing up, but there was a recording in the background when they used to use like samples, and it said something about what we perceive is only like 1 millionth of the actual reality or whatever the number is, and it's so abstract. But I think in this day and age with kind of the spiritual movement and quantum physics and the things that are coming to light in our own understanding about our own humanity, that we're starting to see like, wow, there is things. And I think for people like you who have actually experienced and can experience other realms of existence, I think that's the thing for most humanity right now that is hard to wrap our head around, because we all haven't experienced that, even though I believe that we all can. I believe that we all have, psychic abilities and medium abilities, and we can all really experience energy in so many ways that we just don't understand yet. And I always say, oh, I've never had an experience like Christopher Allen where he's talking to the spirits. I've never had that experience, and I've come to realize that no, I just haven't recognized those moments. That there were probably experiences that have guided me in some way, and that's where they came from, but I just didn't recognize it as such. You know what I mean?
I like the name drop with Chris. He's a wonderful guy. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like we put others on pedestals and we put in a box what spirituality is and what it means to be a thought leader, and we compare and contrast, and that holds people back more than anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I believe everyone has a gift, everyone has a story. You just don't want to leave this world with that still in you. You want to play whatever that is, inside of you. So
Right.
that's very significant. And so many
Totally.
people don't do that out of fear or just out of um, limiting self-belief systems, so
Totally. So you're giving me a good moment here to segue into, again, setting the stage and creating some space for you. So you've made choices, you had this experience, and you've kind of honed your own set of gifts, right? I know from just knowing you that you're a hypnotist, and you have a set of skills that kind of is like all about extrasensory connection with energy, right? So
yes.
tell us some of those skills, and what you might be able to help people with.
Yes, I forgot to mention, and this is going to sound a little bit woo-woo, but that's okay. When I had my near-death experience, my brain literally shut down due to the deprivation of oxygen, and I felt a large crack in half. And when my brain cracked in half, that's when God or the spirit realm came in. And I recognized right after that my brain was very much changed from all this trauma. After this, I had like a thin sliver of light going through my brain, and I was able to really access the higher realms and just go into the other worlds very
Wow.
readily. And to me, it was very eye opening
Mhm.
that the brain isn't the producer of life, but really the filter of it. And that's
So interesting.
profound.
Love
That's
that.
like
Love
a
that. I
filter
love that.
between the two worlds,
Mhm.
because in a sense, for people like myself or people who have lucid, deathbed visitations when they're, for instance, people in Alzheimer's, they're about to go and they have this, crazy awakening. Their brainwave frequencies are very low and the brain is
Mhm.
barely functioning, and yet they have these tremendous spikes of awareness. Or people, who take LSD, their brainwaves again are lower, but they have this higher awareness, and so that segregates the brain and the mind phenomenon. That the mind is beyond the brain, you know.
Right.
But for me, I use that awareness to work with my different modalities of hypnosis, of meditation, how it
Mhm.
really enhances the brain to not work against us, but send work with us
Right.
between the two worlds. And the brain and the mind is like a parachute. It works when it's open, but when it's blocked, we're limited, right? So I try to help people open up.
Right. All these great sayings that are so simple, and sometimes you're like, "Oh, that's so stupid," but they make so much sense, and
Right.
they're all so true. So it's interesting what you're saying, and I just want to bring this back. You don't really know about this, and I don't want to really get too much into it with you. It's interesting how it's connected to when I started the show. The content is changing a little bit. I mostly have people who kind of have these spiritual gifts, Akashic records readers, and channelers, and all of these different amazing modalities. But I have a guest coming up. His name is Flat Earth Dave, and he
Mm,
is a uh, professor. When I say professor, I just mean he professes flat Earth as a theory. Um, and the reason I thought of having him on the show was just because I related the idea of his message of reality is not what we've been taught.
mm,
And I've related to that, and I had some compassion for him because everybody's always slamming him, and I certainly don't. I haven't been able to wrap my head around the idea that the earth is flat. But I have to say, if I believe in other realms and our spirit and our energy can exist, and all of these things that I do believe, how can I say for sure that what he's saying isn't true? And I mean that in a very sincere but light way, in that like simulation theory, you know what I mean? If I believe that this is kind of a simulation, which a lot of quantum physics is starting to tell us that reality is just thought, it's not actually physical, right? We're just thinking about the physical, so we're experiencing it and we think we're experiencing it. That's again just theoretical. But again, I mean, I just had this compassion, and I said, you know what, I want to talk to this guy, and I want to talk to him about, what his soul is. And he actually said to me that he does believe that we have a soul, and that it's our eternal being that lives past this life on earth, which he thinks is a school. So I don't remember why I started talking about that. Oh, because I just relate it to the things that you've experienced, and the whole idea of, other realms of existence. Like, if we can accept those things, you know what I mean, we should at least accept somebody having the idea of something that we can't wrap our heads around. You know what I mean?
I think stagnation is just holding on to just continual viewpoints.
Right.
It's very comforting, but also very limiting. I think being vulnerable is about opening up yourself to infinite possibilities, which is scary. To all of a sudden be open to our worldview, changing, or things that we don't understand. But it's very rewarding, and we do it on a ground level. You think about, in grade school, someone we don't understand, we would other them, or things that weren't like us, we other that.
Right.
But in reality, we understand that we are just so much more, like you said, than the I am, than who we are. We're all interconnected beings, and each person has a different tune, a different frequency to add to the symphony, I believe.
Right. That, and that's something that has been coming through for me. I don't usually say, oh, I've been getting messages and this and that, but lately I've been saying a lot of things I don't expect myself to be saying. I've had some experiences that I would say out loud, like, I think I just had an activation, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I would never really say that, but I mean, there was no other way to describe what my experience was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So recently I've been doing that. So there's a lot of chatter. I just want to say, Tim, I know you have an amazing story. I would love to be bringing it up, but I feel like let's have you on the show. We've talked about that before, so let's have Tim on the show. He's talking about some of his experiences that he's had. I know he wants to probably share them with you. He said he had a couple of experiences that he feels were near death, falling off a swing and breaking his skull, a 3-day coma. And I know from talking to Tim, he's had some amazing some amazing experiences that I want to talk about. So let's have you on the show and talk about that stuff. I do want to also address Jill. I don't know if I think she's asking you that if the crack exposed your pineal gland.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which is really a part within the brain. I mean, it's there, but third eye certainly very much activated. And it's funny, like at certain points in our life when we're open, like we said, infinite possibilities would come to us. And decades after this near-death experience, again in my early 20s, I had this profound OBE where this time I couldn't second guess myself. I wasn't like some hallucinatory kid in this la la land as an infant. I was, a young adult going to college.
Now you had more of an understanding.
Yeah.
So wait, just before you continue, just so for people who don't know, OBE is out of body experience. So
out of body experience. Yeah. God. But I had an out of body experience in my, early 20s, and this experience, I felt my third eye throughout my life, but wow, I felt like a literal massive eyeball that went on for a period of time that was blinking on and off. And it
wow.
I was like, should I put myself in a psychiatric facility? Like what, my left brain was going on overload, but it just reminded me, like when you burn all these barriers away, there's just so much in there. Like, and the highs that I got off of this experience were incredible, and no substances were involved, no LSD,
Amazing.
No nothing. I just woke up one day and this lobster shell that I was having, fell off and a new shell formed. It was just an
Wow,
energetic shift, in
that's
my
awesome.
life. So, like I said, being open, that's the best place to be.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that's how you are. I think that's I've experienced you a couple times in person, and we've been working together, and you're just such a also very, very genuine, amazing human being who you can just sense, like this person really loves other people, and is here for that. It's just like a cool vibe. So thankfully, there's a good contingency of us out there, and it's growing. I just want to say what's up to Paul Alfala, who is out there. Where is he? Paul Alfala. I love your show. Keep on going. Congratulations. Wow, I had no idea you were even watching. Paul's a friend of mine from high school, who has gone on to become a medical doctor, or maybe a chiropractor. I don't remember. Sorry, Paul. But that's very, very, very appreciated, that compliment. Thank you so much. And Tim says absolutely he'll be on the show. Yeah, Tim, we'll talk. We'll definitely talk. I want to see if I just missed anything here. Questions for you. A lot of people, they were talking back and forth, which is great. I love you guys out there, just being there and being here for these amazing stories. I know Jacob is such an amazing guy. I know Eddie. I saw this earlier. I don't know what that means, but I just wanted to acknowledge you being here and say thank you for being here. So you go around and you talk about your experience. And I saw you with, like I said, with a couple of two other mediums, and you did
Mm.
this night, and kind of there was live readings, and there was just it was just a great energetic experience, I think, the whole night. And I guess you're a big professor, and when I say that word, I just mean that's what you are all about.
Right.
You profess the idea of energy and everything that you need kind of being inside, and that's awesome, because that's our message here.
Right. Well, there's many forms of tangible pieces of evidence of eternity, but I'm a physical proof having my near death experience, like right here in front of you.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
So I think that's the goal when you have evidential mediumship and you're having messages from loved ones, and it really has a lot of symmetry and ties in very closely with near death experience. How,
Mhm, mhm.
people could come out of there hopefully with something that's evidential, that can't be denied. And I know you mentioned medicine and science. It's, you listen to scientists talk, they're out of rigid materialism and they really
Mhm,
sound like modern day philosophers.
mhm.
If you listen to some of these, scientists. So science and spirituality, really it works with each other, and one
Right.
keeps the other in check and in line, the other opens the other. It's a nice yin yang. That's
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying about quantum physics, and a lot of the things that are coming out now, as like we have evidence of this, and the biggest one, and I've talked about this a couple of times, is the fact that they in a lab, scientists have physically created something from nothing. So basically, they had nothing in a space, and they manipulated the space through electromagnetism or whatever it was, and then suddenly they had a negative and a positive proton.
Mm,
And this was evidence of the Big Bang. And it was, so I have this guy that I watch called Morg. I don't know if you know who Morg is, but he's a guy who's got a philosophy called Hyperionism, but it's basically a lot of spiritual basics, about energy and about all of the things that you and I both believe. I know we believe them. You know what I mean? Um, but he had an episode about it, and he said, this is so fundamental in understanding how math is the universal code for everything, because if you write the equation 1 plus -1 equals 0, right there you're seeing the equation for what those scientists did. They just changed the perception of what was happening in that space from 0, the nothing, to 1 and -1. It's the same thing.
yeah.
It's just a different perception of the same thing.
When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at always change. So that's
Yeah.
that's
it's
that's
it's amazing, and I just love that's what's happening right now. I'm nowhere near really understanding what I just said, other than I know that it's very significant, and that's where we are as humanity. We're about to take a different perception of what reality is, and I think you and I are probably going to fare pretty well because we already believe that. The people who are having problems wrapping their heads around that are going to be the ones struggling with whatever's to come next. You know what I mean? But that's enough of that. I don't want to make it sound like I'm doomsaying. I'm not. I feel like, and I'm sure you feel the same way. Existence for me is so much more about love and being in touch with the love inside myself than it ever was in my life. It's just like,
Absolutely. Wayne Dyer would always say, you can take an orange, you squeeze an orange out, you get orange juice. And you take us and you squeeze it out. What's left is love,
yeah,
unconditional love. And that's the only thing that lasts. You look at throughout time, yes, certain patterns come and go and they repeat themselves, but love lasts. Love truly wins.
absolutely.
That's who we are. That's a file of our being. So
Absolutely. So on that note, I know you said you like to go to bed early. You've
I'm an
lasted.
old man.
You've lasted the hour. I really appreciate you coming and spending the time with us and sharing your story. Is there any place people can see you soon or next, or just your website right now? Or
Yeah, I'm planning, stuff in Chicago, Los Angeles, Canada, some stuff. My book should be coming out by the end of the year, beginning of January, so stay tuned. But my website, jacobLcooper.com, has my social media links on Facebook, Instagram, Jacob Cooper LCSW, as well as my book available on Amazon, which makes a great gift, particularly in the holiday times when people are going through grief and looking for higher awareness, during their moments. So,
and I think a lot of people are at this point, especially with how it's
yeah,
been the last couple of years. And you just totally manifested, by the way, my worldwide audience by making announcements about where you were going to be in Chicago and all of these places. That's where my viewers are going to start popping up over there. So thank you for
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 they can
planting
listen
those
to the
seeds.
replay and they'll be there. Yeah.
There you go. Do you have any words of wisdom as we end the show?
Yes. My favorite quote, Albert Einstein would say, is the universe with you, for you, or against you. And I think how we live our lives is largely determined by our viewpoint of that. Is the life working against us, for us, or ambivalence. And so I think the more that we're able to have trust in it, that goes beyond the surface and could allow us to really take away victimization and allow us to trust that this is a process of evolution, which simply we become a greater expression of who we truly are, and hopefully the planet as well too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom. Absolutely. Julie is saying thank you. Lily is saying thank you. Tim is saying that he loves math and that a relative of his came up with the butterfly effect.
Wow.
Another came up with the foundation what Einstein later used to prove his theory. Oh, well, we're going to freaking talk about all of that when you're on my show. Awesome, Tim.
Nerd out. Yeah.
And Gabby is here. Thank you, Gabby, for showing up and chiming in. I appreciate your energy and making yourself known. You are also a light in the darkness. All of you guys, lights in the darkness. Jacob, I'm just going to put you backstage, so I'm going to say goodnight, but don't go away. I'll talk to you in just a minute. All right?
You got it.
Good to see you. Oh, wow. Awesome. Whew. I always got to decompress and breathe out after a great conversation. That's awesome. Jacob is such an amazing light and human being, and I'm just so grateful to be connected with him and that he came here and he shared his story with all of you. I'm grateful for all of you being here. My old high school buddies are here, and like people showing up out of the woodwork. Gabby, awesome. I love it. Believe the live stream of consciousness. This is going to be significant, or you know what? I'm going to change that. This is significant. I will talk to you guys next week with Michael Clarity. I'm excited for that one. Peace.